well, going back to that, when I was ready to set up my machine gun and to commence the firing, retaliation, as I was on my way to set my gun up, the captain of Charlie Company had came up to meet us because their company came in behind us to give us aid, and he stopped me, and I don't remember his name, and he said, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Don't worry, big man, they're not going to get you." And I said, man, into myself, I said, yeah, I hope you're right, pal. So anyway, when I laid down, just to set up my gun, there was nothing to hide behind. So I was ready to fire back because nobody was shooting yet. And then all of a sudden, that thought of David C. with the 50 caliber came into my head. I said, oh my God! I said, when I pull this trigger and that 50, he's going to zoom in right on me because he knows that I got an M60, right? I'm dead meat, man. There's nothing to hide behind with a 50 caliber, And there really wasn't nothing thick to hide behind anyway. But I had no choice. I just started firing for what it was worth, until then everybody else moved up and started commencing their firing too, So I really don't want to get into too much detail, because then won't be, because in the book I really describe it really.
No, it's so well written in the book because you could just see the suspense and everything. You describe it so well. So well done, well done.
So then, that's when it really started, and it lasted for a few hours, But we couldn't get to our point man. He was pinned down. David C. was wounded, so he was back. He was dusted off, So just the other point man, Terry, who ends up getting killed later, okay? And we were getting casualty. I mean, there was, counting the lieutenant, there was 17 of us that day, and 11 of the 17 were hit. Was 3 of the recon platoon was killed, but then there was a few other kills, but there was many casualties between us and the companies, And I'll tell you the truth, Joey, when I was set on the chopper, I don't want to get into what happened before that because it's too long, and it's, I don't want to ruin it, And,
no, and I think that's perfect because we're obviously going to have the in-person interview later too, and I still want people to enjoy the book, so that's a good idea.
Right. Well, but when I got on the chopper to dust me off, and Terry Snyder, he was one of the point men who got killed later, like I was just saying, he was on top of me on the stretch, and I could see the blood, and I asked the flight, one of the attendants in the chopper, who was that? And he told me, he saw his name. And we were good friends. And in the book, I go, because I have a personal relationship with him too, and about talking to him, because what had happened when they killed the VC a couple of days before that. And so when the chopper finally took off, I looked down, because it was the jungle was so thick. I mean, we couldn't see anything, And when I took off, because I had an airstrike, we called it an airstrike. When I took off, I looked down, and that jungle looked like a bulldozer went through it. I mean, there was just nothing left. Them trees were just chewed up from bullets going back and forth. It was amazing. So that was that day. And like I said, it was a battle, and there was a lot to describe about it.
Yeah, and you did describe it to as good a maximum as you could. And obviously, you were wounded in that engagement. And I think you have a great line where you basically say, I had to have 3 surgeries for 1 bullet that hit me at that time. And then also, your incredible actions under fire that day, you earned and received the Silver Star for that. And I think there's a great line in the book where you're talking to somebody when you're back stateside after you kind of recovered from the injury and you're kind of finishing out your tour. And someone says, I've seen people receive the Medal of Honor for doing less than you did that day. I mean, what was it in you? Is it just the instincts you had? Is it just reaction? I mean, to perform the way you did under fire, to save as many people as you did, to stand up to the enemy, it's heroism at its finest. It really is.
Well, you really don't think about that. I'm telling you, it's so hard to describe. We were scared. Don't get me wrong, we were scared. Yeah. But when I was doing all of this, and then they were trying to get one of our point men out, and he was, the guy was struggling because I was with another one, our medic who was wounded. I was helping him. And when this guy, Charlie House, said to me, John, I need help. I said, Joey, I mean, I didn't think about anything from that moment on. I just stood up and just went over, grabbed Canuck, the guy who was killed, who was wounded. You know, he died later. But I just grabbed him, and then from then on, it was like I was invisible. I'm telling you, I had to be invisible because there is no way that I should be sitting here talking to anybody what was going on that day, you know. And anybody in the same position would tell you that they would do the same thing because that's what you do. You know,
Yeah.
you help each other out. You don't think about nothing. You don't think about your country. You don't think about why you're there. You just, for that moment, you're just doing what needs to be done. And you know your friends were in trouble, and that's the way that's the way everybody was. And we watched each other's back, and we died for each other. You know? And you don't even think about it. You know, you don't think about it. You just do it. You know, and if you're fortunate enough, like I was, to get through with it, you know, with the injury I had, and believe it or not, that, like you seen in the book, that bullet wasn't meant for me. You know, no, exactly. It was
And
amazing.
you'll see what he means when you go and read it. But you know, I love what you said because it echoes. You know, I've been honored and so lucky to interview some amazing people who've served this country. And another good friend, Thomas George, who's a Silver Star recipient from the Vietnam War, was in an ambush type battle. It's almost very similar to the circumstances of yours. And you know, when I asked him the same question I asked you, he almost gave me the same answer. You don't stop and think. You see your buddies who are hurting and in trouble, and you just go and you do whatever you have to do to help them.
Right.
I think that's one of the things that just makes the Vietnam veteran so special. You know, the amount of disrespect that you guys got, which is still something that is always going to pain this country. And the way you guys performed, you were the best of your generation. And I admire all of you guys so much for what you did for our country. And the book is just a masterpiece, John. And, you know, it's one of the things where I think you had such a amazing, you know, rallying cry to write this. And you had so many reasons to honor your cousin Tony, to honor the guys you fought beside. But it's also kind of a plea to other guys, you know, to write your own story. I think that's one of the major messages you also felt with this book is, you know, to urge other people to write your story, share it. From your own standpoint with your family, you saw how much it meant to your daughter and others to write this story. So I think that's something that's so important to you, is it right?
Right. That's another reason why I wrote, because I wanted the people to realize what any veteran goes through, but I'm talking most about the Vietnam because that's what I went through, and to see what we all individually went through, like when finally getting recognized, the Vietnam veteran after all these years, finally getting recognized, which means a lot to us.
Yeah.
But when people walk up to somebody and they say, "Hey, thank you for this," because if you got your Vietnam cap on, they'll say, "Thank you for your service, you know, welcome home." I said, that's fine. That really feels good, you know, but that's only words, you know. They don't realize what that particular fellow or woman went through. Just as they're saying their word, but they don't know what that guy went through, you know,
No.
especially in Vietnam, the jungles of because there was so many different aspects that we had to deal with that you just don't realize, between the bugs and the weather and the conditions and the mud and I mean, you know, if you're in combat, okay, like the Iraqi vets, you know, they're going through hell, okay, but when I wasn't there, so I can't. But I just visualize it. When they're walking through the towns and buildings, they can see the building. They can see where the enemy might be, you know, because they got an open range. But when you're in the jungle, you got to worry about what's underneath you, what's above you, what's around you, what's hidden. You know, most of the time you don't even see your enemy, and they're firing and they're shooting at you. You know, because these guys were unbelievable jungle warfare. It's unbelievable. They were so good, okay, that, you know, and then I didn't find out till later on that they've been fighting for years and years. And
the French before the Americans, they've been fighting their whole lives, basically.
So and we're in their backyard. All right, okay. And they got like cities underground, so they can pop up anywhere. And because it used to amaze me, because I used to say, how the heck did these guys do this? There's no dirt. There's no fresh dirt around. And you dig in like we dug in, you could see the dirt, that was left over from not filling the sandbags up. And I said, how did these guys do this? But then years later on, I found out, about how long they've been fighting. So they had all these years and years and years to do all this. They got underground cities, and they could say, we'll go here and go there and pop up, take a few guys out, and then just disappear. It was it's an unbelievable way to fight a war. It was horrible, and it really was.
It is, and for people who to really try to almost understand, and you never, unless you've walked in the boots like you did, you'll never truly understand what it's like. But you do gain such a profound respect for anyone who doesn't already, just by, again, it's not only the combat, it's like John, you're talking about, it's the weather, the rain, the torrential rain, the bugs, the jungle, the constant insects that are biting at you. It's just a different world over there. And you do such a good job of bringing that world to life for us in this book. And, it's only been out a short time, but you and I were talking before we started about how well it is done. On Amazon right now, there's 48 customer ratings, and more people than that have bought the book, obviously, but 48 people have taken the time on Amazon to leave reviews so far. Every single one has left a 5-star rating, including myself. And I think that speaks to how strong of a book it is. When you made this, did you ever expect it to have as an instant success as it has so far?
No, I mainly wrote it for my kids, my wife, and my family, so they would I would leave behind my legacy, And man, it just took off. It was like unbelievable. It was amazing, It's a good feeling, But
is this like? No, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
What capped it off? Well, I raised my daughter, my kids, from my first marriage, and because she was 4 years old, and when I separated, so she ended up coming with me. So I raised her all these years, and she always thought that she was a burden to me, And when she read the book, she read it. She's on her 13th time already. But when she read it, she called me up, and she said, "Dad," she said, "you don't know what this book did for me." She says, "I always thought I was a burden to you." He said, "Now I realize how happy I made you, because in the book I'm talking about my, I'm gonna have a baby. My wife's pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah. So it made her feel so good. So that made me feel good. I said, well, at least if anything else, or if nothing else, at least I had an effect on my kids. And my son, the same thing. He said, "Dad, I never knew." I mean, you told us stories, but never we never thought what really we went through, So that's why I urge everybody else to tell their story, because their children need to know it, and it means so much to them. It really makes a difference. So that was a good thing.
And I love hearing that. And, that's one of the things I did constantly think about is, you're a guy over in Vietnam, young guy, you've got a child on the way. And, I'm sure that was so hard on your family, on top of everything else, just knowing that, you're in danger all the time. You've got a kid on the way. Thank God you made it back right in the nick of time, too, very shortly before the birth of your daughter. So it really is it really is amazing how things worked out like that. But again, everyone, the book is The Last Goodbye. I've got 3 copies, and John, when we do have you in person, we've got a little giveaway which I'm looking forward to. Our audience is going to get a chance to win a copy of the book, so we'll have you sign it for them, and they'll be able to learn a little bit about it then too. But I truly think, especially right now with everything going on, it's a great time. One of the highlights for, even though it's been a very difficult time for everyone, one of the highlights for me of this time has been getting the chance to read this and just really enjoy it, because it's truly a great piece of work, John. You should be really proud. It's a great thing you did.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that very much.
Of course, my friend. And I hope that this interview helps get the word out even more, because it should be in a lot everywhere, because people can learn so much from it. And I hope it inspires people, like you said, to go out there and tell their stories, because especially people who served in the Vietnam War, so many of you guys have stories to share. You got to get them out there.
Right. Yeah. A lot of Vietnam vets, they're in a dark place.
Yeah.
And they need to come into the light.
And they do. And, you know, I think thankfully, like you said, there's so many more people now who are saying welcome home and
Right.
trying to make up for the mistakes of the past. And I hope that by continuing to be out there and share your stories, that'll be a great way to do it. But John, it's been a tremendous pleasure today, my friend. We're really glad we were able to do this. Again, I'm looking. We got that date. We're gonna have it locked in when everything is safe to do so. But this was really fun to be able to do and just talk about the book a little bit, because we've been meaning to do it for a while. I'm glad we got to make it happen.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it. It was great.
Oh,
Thank
of
you
course,
so much.
my friend. You stay safe. God bless you and your family, my friend. And we'll be back, and we'll have that real interview, that big interview where that's still going to come. And until then, everyone, make sure you pick up The Last Goodbye. You don't want to let this one miss you.
Oh, Joe, thanks. Appreciate it so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John. Take care, my friend.
God bless. All right. Stay safe.